She was the last ruler of the Ptolemaic dynasty. Although she was born in Egypt, Cleopatra was not Egyptian. Her origins trace back to the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Macedonian Greek royal family. She was a descendant of Ptolemy I Soter, a general and friend of Alexander the Great. The Ptolemies were the last dynasty to rule Egypt, from 305 to 30 BC. She was highly intelligent and well-educated. Medieval Arab texts praise Cleopatra for her accomplishments as a mathematician, chemist and philosopher. She was said to have written scientific books and, in the words of the historian al-Masudi, she was also multilingual. Historical accounts report her speaking between 5 and 9 languages, including her native Greek, Egyptian, Arabic and Hebrew. Cleopatra married 2 of her brothers. Cleopatra was married to her brother and co-ruler Ptolemy XIII, who was 10 years old at the time she was 18. In 48 BC, Ptolemy tried to depose his sister, forcing her to flee to Syria and Egypt. Upon Ptolemy XIII's death, after being defeated by Roman-Egyptian armies, Cleopatra married his younger brother Ptolemy XIV. She was 22. He was 12. During their marriage, Cleopatra continued to live with Caesar privately and act as his mistress. Her beauty was the product of Roman propaganda. Contrary to modern portrayals from Elizabeth Taylor and Vivian Leigh, there is no evidence among ancient historians that Cleopatra was a great beauty. Contemporary visual sources show Cleopatra with a large pointed nose, narrow lips and sharp, jutting chin. She used her image as a political tool. Cleopatra believed herself to be a living goddess and was keenly aware of the relationship between image and power. Historian John Fletcher described her as a mistress of disguise and costume. She would appear dressed as the goddess Isis at ceremonial events and surrounded herself with luxury. She was a popular pharaoh. Contemporary Egyptian sources suggest that Cleopatra was loved among her people. Unlike her Ptolemaic forebears, who spoke Greek and observed Greek customs, Cleopatra identified as a truly Egyptian pharaoh. She was a strong and successful leader. Under her rule, Egypt was the richest nation in the Mediterranean and the last to remain independent from the rapidly expanding Roman Empire. Cleopatra built up the Egyptian economy and used trade with Arab nations to bolster her country's status as a world power. Her lovers were also her political allies. Cleopatra's relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony were as much military alliances as romantic liaisons. At the time of her meeting with Caesar, Cleopatra was in exile, cast out by her brother. Caesar was to arbitrate a peace conference between the warring siblings. Cleopatra persuaded her servant to wrap her in a carpet and present her to the Roman general. In her best finery, she begged Caesar for his help to regain the throne. She was in Rome when Caesar was killed. Cleopatra was living in Rome as Caesar's mistress at the time of his violent death. In 44 BC, his assassination put her own life in danger, and she fled with their young son across the river Tiber. She had 4 children. Cleopatra had one son with Julius Caesar, who she named Caesarion, Little Caesar. After her suicide, Caesarion was killed under orders by the Roman Emperor Augustus. Cleopatra had 3 children with Mark Antony, Ptolemy Philadelphus and twins Cleopatra Selene and Alexander Helios. None of her descendants lived to inherit Egypt.